In this video, we're going to find the whole given a common percent and an amount. Find the indicated amounts. We're going to round our results to 2 decimal places as needed. We can use the calculator, but we're going to write down the expression that we put in the calculator. So let's read the first question. The Geology Club is taking a trip to Hawaii to explore volcanoes. 20% of the club can make the trip, which is a total of 12 students. And we are asked, how many students are in the Geology Club in total? So notice this problem is a little different from the problems we've done in the past. We're given a percentage. We're told 20% of the club. So the club, all the people in the club, is the whole. And we're told that 20% of that whole is 12 students. So the 12 students is our amount. Okay, so we're going to use the double number line to figure this out. Okay, so we know that 20% is 12 students. We want to find 100% of the club, what number of students that is. So this is the number of club members. Okay. So notice the first number line, well, both of them are actually already partitioned into 5 equal pieces. Now let's see how we got that value. So we wanted to find, okay, here is 20%, and we want how many copies of 20% are in 100%. So how many copies of 20% are in 100%. Okay. Or equivalently, how many times as large is 100% compared to 20%? So notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 copies of 20% in 100% that line up with the tick marks. Now we could find that more directly by dividing 100 by 20. How many copies of 20% are in 100%? Well, there are 5. Okay, so that means there are 5 copies of 12 in the whole club. Okay, so we can think of, if 20% is 12 students, then this is 40%, which is 2 times 20% of the students. This is 60%, which is 36 students. 80% of the club is 48 students, and 100% of the club is going to be 60 students, or 5 copies of 12. So let's see how we could represent this symbolically without drawing these number lines. So this gave us the idea of the problem, but we want to start with the amount we're given, that's 20% of the whole, and then we ended up taking 5 copies of that. But let's remember where the 5 came from in terms of the other number we were given. It was take the 100% and see how many copies of 20% are in 100%. Okay, so this is where we got the 5 from. So here's our 100% whole that we're trying to find, and we're finding how many 20% are in this. Okay. Equivalently, I'm going to just write this out as one more step. We can think of taking the 12 and dividing it by 20. That would give us 1%. Okay, dividing 12 by 20 would line up with 1% of the whole. And then multiplying by 100 would give us 100 copies of 1%, or 100% of the whole. So we have 12 times 100 divided by 20, which gives us 60 members, and this corresponds to our number line work. Let's look at the next problem. Finn bought a mountain bike for 30% off. If he paid $245 for the bike, we're asked to find the original price before the sale. Okay. So looking at our percent number line, we have 100%. We know he paid 30% off. So that's going to be 30% off is subtracting 30% from the 100%. Okay, so this is the amount he paid. So be careful with the difference between a percent off and a percent of. And we're told that he paid $245 for the bike. That was the sale price. So 70% is $245, and we want to find the original price, which would be 100% of the cost of the bike. Okay. So we're going to use the same idea that we used in the last problem. Okay. We want to know how many copies of 70%, so this is 70%, are in 100%. Now notice there's more than one, so up to here would be one copy of 70%, and then we have 10, 20, 30% more out of our original of 70%. So we have 1 3/7 or 37th of a copy. Okay. So how do we find this directly? Remember what we did last time is we divided the 100% by 20%. In this case, we're dividing by 70%, which is 100 over 70, or 10/7. Okay. So now let's see how this corresponds to our whole number line. Okay. Well, this is cut into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces, 70%, but we're going to think of it as 7 equal pieces and see how much each 10% is. Well, 245 divided by 7 is 35. Okay, so each 10%, let's label a couple of these, is $35. So we have $0, 35, 70, 105, 140. I'm just adding 35s here, 175, 210, and another 35 would give me 245. So this is matching up so far. Now we're going to keep going to find the whole. 35 would be 280. Another 35 would be 315, and another 35 would be 350. So based on our computations on the number line, the original price of the bike is $350. Okay, so that was 10 copies of $35. So let's see how we could do this more directly with the symbolic representation. We took the 70% of $245, okay, and we're going to use our original numbers. Remember, we divided by 7, and then we took 10 copies. And we could think of that as coming from our original 100% and 70%. So we will use 170 since those numbers were from the original problem. It's equivalent to 10/7. So 245 dividing into 70 gives us 1%. Then we take 100 copies, which gives us 100%. Now let's compute this. 245 times 100 divided by 70 gives us $350. And that corresponds with our number line results. Okay. Let's do one more. Don went skiing and rented skis and boots. The total cost for the rental, including tax, was $19.80. If the tax rate was 10%, excuse me, how much did the rental cost before tax? Now notice the values were given here, and we have our percent and whole number line lined up. Okay, we want to find the cost before tax, which is 100% of the cost before tax. 110%, since the tax rate was 10%, the cost before tax plus the tax gives us the amount he paid, which is $19.80. Okay, we want to find 100%. So we'll put a question mark here. Okay, now again, we can use the same idea that we used before. Okay, we want to know how many copies of 110% are in 100%. Okay, so we're using 110% as our unit of measure, and we want to see how many copies of 100% there are. So notice there is 100 out of 110, since 100 is smaller. Okay, so our ratio is 100 over 110, and notice that's equivalent to 10/11ths. Okay, so again, notice the patterns from the last three problems. In all cases, our fraction here, our ratio, was always 100% over the percent we were given the amount for. Okay, so we're given 110% is 1980. That goes in the denominator. 100% goes in the numerator. Okay, so we can use the same idea here. Okay, I'm going to simplify this. Okay, so 1980, if this is broken into 11 equal pieces, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I knew that because 110 divided by 10 is 11, then each piece $19.80 divided by 11, each piece is $1.80. Okay, so we can count by $80s here, 180, 360, etc. But I'm going to go directly to 10 copies of $1.80 because that's our whole. So 10 times 180 is $18. Okay, so the original price before tax was $18. Now, how do we get this more directly? We take the amount we're given. 1980 is 110%, so divide 1980 into 110 pieces. That gives us 1%. We take 100 copies, and this ratio will give us 100%. Okay, here what we did is we divided by 11, multiplied by 10, so we ignored the zeros in this problem, but it is equivalent. So 19.8 times 100 divided by 110 gives us $18, which corresponds to our result.